Yo, what's going on? Scotty Eaton, aka Scott Free, and I wanted to make this video. This has been something that I've been thinking about for a while now, in related to being a targeted individual. Now, I'm sure I can't be the only one who thinks this, but after a while, you start to see a lot of these mass shootings on the news, and it's a lot of the time the same typical story. Oh, the kid was a nice kid. He was a quiet kid. Didn't bother anybody. I didn't never could have saw this coming. I have no idea what could have happened. And of course, there are the occasional ones where the kid was like a crazy weirdo, or had a history of some type of mental illness, or other criminal backgrounds. But usually, a lot of the times, it's people that seem normal. But after a while, I start to notice that a lot of these shooters claim to have a lot of symptoms associated with being a TI. For example, hearing voices via V2K, artificial telepathy, and there's even some that actually knew about targeted individuals and gang stalking that claim to be a TI. Others also saying that they were hearing voices as well as being hit with electronic weapons, directed energy weapons, and that stuff. As well as having images and messed up things inserted into their head and their thoughts and dreams. And I just wanted to go over a few things, articles that I've seen. If you Google mass shooters hearing voices, any of that stuff, you'll find the same articles. But one kid, 19-year-old Darian Marcus Aguilar, he was apparently obsessed with the Columbine shooting, and he shot up a mall in Columbia, Maryland. And if you go down on the article on my computer, and it did say that those searches were, he said he began using the internet to search about mass shootings in malls and schools, gun laws, and explosive techniques. He downloaded a video game allowing players to act as one of the shooters from that day. With those were inquiries about mental illness and visits to sites about suicide prevention. The kid was sought help from his regular doctor because he was hearing voices. The doctor said he referred the guy to a psychiatrist, but he never made an appointment. And he said that the doctor told police the kid told him that these voices were nonviolent and did not direct him to do anything. Okay, fair enough. These ones are other articles that have histories of history of reports of mass shooters who said they heard voices before their attacks. One guy, Alexis, in the Navy, the Navy Yard shooter, who was killed at the Washington, D.C. Navy Yard. Now, he said on his own gun, he carved my ELF weapon. ELF is short for electronic low frequency. And shortly before the shooting, he filed a report in Rhode Island about his harassment, stating that he felt microwave-directed energy weapons. And he also reported to the officers that 3 people were sent to follow him, keep him awake by talking to him, and sending vibrations into his body. He attempted to change hotel rooms to another at a Navy base where he heard the same voices talking to him through the walls, floor, and the ceiling. He noted that these people are using some sort of microwave machine to send vibrations through the ceiling and penetrating his body so he couldn't fall asleep. There you go. Well, obvious, one guy that was a TI. Stating they heard voices, undeniable that the shootings are an extremely overlooked fact by the general public. Consistent warnings of electronic harassment and violent thoughts being implanted into their brains, and in some cases, weeks before committing mass acts of, in many cases, domestic terrorism. Now, if you go further, the second case, in this article, 2 weeks after Alexis' shooting in D.C., the suspect, a woman by the name of Miran Mae, She slammed her car through a White House barrier. Like Alexis, she believed that she was hearing voices, except she thought that the voice she heard was then President Barack Obama communicating with her. The third case is the Boston Marathon bombing. Tamerlan Tsarnaev, apologize, mispronouncing that, one of the brothers, had also heard voices in his head before committing his attack. In fact, he used the term majestic mind control to describe the phenomenon, according to a background story published by the Boston Globe. Further, four young, handsome men in suits had previously approached a person whose name was redacted by the FBI, saying they wanted to speak to Tamerlan and claimed they were FBI. Four men provided no ID and left no business cards. It said Tamerlan was open to all contact with the FBI and will report any additional contact with the four unidentified individuals who claimed to be FBI, NBC reported. Were these four unidentified individuals deep state agents who gang-stalked the brothers and implanted the idea of terrorism in their young minds? That's what the article says. A convenient event that happened the day before the Boston Marathon bombing was the fire and explosion at the JFK Library that authorities ruled wasn't connected to it and was an electrical fire, but that would be a hell of a coincidence. The fourth case we will examine happened last year at the Fort Lauderdale International Airport. The suspect, 26-year-old Iraq war vet Esteban Santiago. Santiago, before committing his mass killing, walked into an FBI field office weeks earlier with claims he was hearing voices and that the CIA was controlling his mind, Market Watch reported. Santiago further specifically claimed he was being forced to have terroristic thoughts and that the government was controlling his mind and forcing him to watch Islamic State videos. His brother Brian told CBS that the government failed to help Esteban. The FBI failed there. We're not talking about someone who emerged from anonymity to do something like this. In anonymity to do something like this. The federal government already knew about this for months. They've been evaluating him for a while, but they didn't do anything. Another incident that happened last year involved Jason Brian Dalton, who police say shot and killed 6 people in Kalamazoo, Michigan. Dalton told officers he was being controlled by the Uber app on his phone at the time of the rampage. When a police officer asked him about the shooting, he responded that he opened the company's app. A symbol appeared that would literally take over your whole body, an officer wrote in his police report. These cases are frighteningly similar, even if not involving ISIS, to other mass shooting incidents that have occurred in recent years. Another incident, November 2014, a young lawyer named Miran Mae walked into Florida State University's library and shot 3 people. The media reported that he was crazy and hearing voices just like Santiago and Alexis. Mae also claimed the government was electronically harassing him and gang-stalking him like others, describing hearing voices coming from the wall, NBC reported. So, yeah. There's a lot of cases that seem to have the exact same facts to it. It's obvious that some of them definitely were being gang-stalked. And in this case of this guy, Miran Mae, there's a photo of a Facebook post. He said, also, has anyone here ever been encouraged by your handler to kill with a promise of freedom? You know, so that means his handler, the voices that, his stalkers that were communicating, harassing him with V2K, probably just said, hey man, we'll stop this if you go kill some people. You know, poor guy believed it, and look what happened. Days before the shooting, he sent off 10 packets of information, including flash drives, packets which were later intercepted by the FBI to try and prove what he claimed was happening to him. The point of the electronic harassment, according to him, was to drive him to commit an act of mass violence. And a week before the shooting, that's when he posted that message on his Facebook. Anyone ever been encouraged by your handler to kill with a promise of freedom? He even uploaded a series of videos on YouTube talking about his experience being what is known as a TI. So this guy was someone who knew about gang stalking and was a TI, and still was unable to get any help. Another shooting that happened in 2014 of a mall in Columbia, Maryland, also had the suspect claiming he was hearing voices. So, yeah. Going back further, the attacker in 2011 shooting spree, Jared Longner, that reportedly killed 6 people and wounded 13, including Congresswoman Gabrielle Giffords, filed a lawsuit claiming he was framed and he was handpicked illegally to be a sleeper assassin. He also stated, "The government put a chip in my head to control my mind." I mean, I don't know how many more of these articles need to come out before something, like, someone has to think the same thing I am. And I know I'm not the only one. I've talked about it with other TIs as well. 2012, the Aurora movie theater shooting, James Holmes, who holds a Bachelor of Science degree in neuroscience, and who, like a number of these cases, has ties to the military. In his case, DARPA, where years before he interned at the Salk Institute where he was younger, where coincidentally researchers were working on ways to neurologically enhance soldiers at the time he volunteered to work there. Further, an inmate of Holmes, Stephen Unruh, claimed that the deranged man told him he was programmed to commit the rampage by an evil therapist. He also mentioned neurolinguistic programming, a form of psychotherapy. Yeah, he felt like he was in a video game during the shooting, that he wasn't on his meds and nobody would help him. Of course, Lieutenant J.D. Knight, who directly supervises booking operations, disputes the claim. It would be virtually impossible for Mr. Unruh to have any of the communications he stated. Yeah, sure, of course he would say that. Yeah. Cool. Conveniently guess who was injured in the Aurora massacre? Gabrielle Giffords. So, it is quite horrible. We have to even factor that in some of these shooters committing mass killings were MK Ultra Project Bluebird assassins, doing so for an agenda. But then there is the person's mental health as a key factor as well. When the government has such evil technology and anyone authorized can use it without regulation or oversight, the sky is the limit. In other words, rogue agents, how do you differentiate between mental health and mind control? It becomes nearly impossible. But logically, if this technology is known to exist and several cases have been reported across the U.S., then we can't just dismiss all these people who said they heard voices as schizophrenic or insane. However, in fairness, here are statistics for schizophrenia disorder according to mentalhealth.net. Yeah, so I just had to make this video because looking at all these shootings over the years, it's obvious that a lot of them were TIs. Maybe not every single one. You know, there are copycat killers, kids that, like the one I mentioned before, who was obsessed with Columbine and just wanted the attention. But all of these guys claim to have some symptoms of being a TI, if not knowing that they were actually a TI. I'm just wondering how many more is it of these shootings are going to happen with the same exact storyline before it becomes even more obvious than it already is that gang stalking is real. The government technology has leaked out to the public. You don't have to be connected to the military to be harassed electronically. Now the technology is available anywhere. In my videos that I say all the time, I know for a fact my neighbors in Clifton, New Jersey are stalking me, and it seems to be any guy that I guess you can say is lucky enough to be a scumbag to know people that do this. All it takes is meeting somebody that has access to the technology to show them. That's how the other family on the first floor of my apartment joined in as well to stalk me with the people on the second floor. So, just going to, say one more thing. Nothing related to this video, but if anyone out there has anything to say to anybody, for whatever reason, if you're hesitating to do it, just do it. I learned today that a friend of mine I went to high school with, I lost touch with a few years ago, passed away. And I lost touch with him because I made the decision to cut him off because I thought he did something which I later found out was something that my gang stalkers at 247 Speer Ave in Clifton were responsible for. So I unknowingly blamed him. I did have my reasons too, but come to find out that he wasn't the one who did it. It was, Martin at 247 Speer Ave, and I blamed this guy, and I cut off our friendship. I haven't talked to him since, but since I figured out that it wasn't him, for the past few months, I've been thinking about it here and there, calling him up, apologizing, just talking to him, catching up. For whatever reason, I didn't do that, and now he's gone, and I gotta leave. I gotta deal with that and live with that. So, regret is a motherfucker, and it's one of the worst feelings ever. So, rest in peace, Jay. And if anyone has anything to say to somebody for whatever reason, I suggest pick up a phone, reach out to them online, do whatever you gotta do to talk to them, because you never know what can happen at any moment. So, just wanted to say that. And going back to this video, all this crazy stuff, nothing's a coincidence when it's over and over again, the same details, the same exact story, the same symptoms. And I'm just wondering, when is it going to get to the point where the media and the government finally admit that they fucked up, made this technology, and it has leaked to anyone that can know someone that does this, a gang stalking scumbag like my neighbors at 247 Speer Ave in Clifton. And that's all it takes to know. You don't got to have special connections with nobody. Just meet the right dirtbag, and that's all it takes. So, I want to know. I'm curious. I know I can't be the only one who thinks this. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And I appreciate you guys, all you guys watching. And thank you. I'll see you soon.